Deep in the heart of the Amazon, Kevin faced a deadly encounter unlike any before. A pit of snakes guarded something more sinister than he could have imagined. But when a giant anaconda blocked his path, Kevin knew this was no ordinary day of work. What did Kevin discover? Watch until the end to uncover the shocking truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to The Unusual for more thrilling stories. Kevin was tasked by his boss to help locate and clear out snake pits. He was no stranger to snakes, but the pit he encountered had some ominous vibes. He knew this wasn't going to be a regular day of work when he tried to go down, and the snakes grew more aggressive. He got the feeling that they were protecting something at the bottom. One thing stood out. The snakes seemed to group around the center of the pit. There was something important down there. Kevin had once heard of a local legend, but he dismissed the thought quickly. They had to sedate the snakes to get down there, so he called for backup. Backup quickly arrived to help Kevin descend into the pit. He got some protective gear from his fellow workers, and with sedative darts, they managed to sedate most of the snakes. When Kevin finally got down there, everybody's jaw dropped to the floor. How was this possible? But what had Kevin found at the bottom of the snake pit? And why was everyone so shocked at what they had encountered? For a couple of months now, Kevin had been scouring the rainforest for snake pits in the Amazon. He and his colleagues had been working hard to make the rainforest a safer place for everyone to go to. But it has not been easy. It was a slow and difficult process to track down all the pits, many of which were very well hidden. Due to the lack of available roads and the constant dangers of the rainforest, it has become even more difficult. They were way behind schedule, and some of the locals were even threatening the company. They worship the snakes and want to leave the pits intact. Kevin's company had been hired by the government, so they had no choice but to continue. The authorities gave them an ultimatum until the end of the month, or no one would be paid. Kevin decided that he would split up from his team to find the snake pits by himself. This turned out to be the biggest mistake of his life. When Kevin was clearing a path, he suddenly jumped back. He knew he had to continue, but he had no backup or real plan. What he had seen was a giant anaconda, not just a regular one, the biggest he had ever seen. It was slowly making its way toward Kevin. His first instinct was to run, but the anaconda blocked his way back. His mind spun, disoriented by the sheer size of the creature before him. He had heard tales of giant anacondas deep in the heart of the rainforest, but nothing had prepared him for this. The thing was a living nightmare, a coiled monster of muscle and hunger. The sounds of the jungle faded, replaced by the soft, deliberate slithering of the anaconda as it advanced, its long, thick body rippling through the underbrush like a tidal wave of death. Kevin could feel the sweat dripping down his back, cold and clammy against his skin, despite the oppressive heat. His breath came in short gasps, and his hands shook uncontrollably as his fingers twitched toward his waist, where his machete hung by his side. But what good was a blade against a beast like this? The anaconda was no ordinary snake. Its body was fatter than his leg, the skin scaly and rigid of color, halfway between green and black. Its head was roughly the size of an adult male's body, and its yellow eyes its only source of emitting light. Locked onto Kevin as it continued to approach more and more. This idea started to edge the panic at Kevin, which quickly injected him with confusion, intertwining his thoughts. He was trapped. He could try to climb one of the towering trees that stood nearby, but the anaconda would be on him before he could even begin searching for a foothold. The thick underbrush that had once felt like a protective barrier now felt like a prison, hemming him in, giving him no room to maneuver. His hands shook as they hovered near the machete's hilt, but he knew instinctively that it wouldn't be enough. This wasn't a fight he could win with brute force. The snake's eyes glinted with cold intelligence, its forked tongue flicking out to taste the air as if sensing Kevin's fear. It moved with a terrifying patience, methodical as though it knew he had no escape. His legs buckled, which could easily fold off from beneath him. It crossed his mind. He had to plan. But the more he tried to search for the best solution for him, the more overwhelmed his mind was with complications and fear of loss. Well, there was nowhere to go from this. There was no way out of it. The trees were too intertwined, the vines too numerous. He had come too far into the forest alone for his reckless pull to get to the snake pit alone. And now he was in front of that fire, the result of that decision that he had made. Suddenly, the anaconda's head reared up, rising higher off the ground, its neck swelling as it hissed, a bone-chilling sound that echoed through the trees like a death rattle. Kevin was so shocked that he jerked back, the back of his heel meeting and sinking slightly into the muddy ground. The motion stopped the spell. However, in that split second, the consciousness of the body was telling him to get the hell away to live. But where? His mind scrambled, searching for any possible way out. If he ran deeper into the jungle, he risked becoming more lost, with no clear idea of how far the snake's territory stretched. Yet the alternative was unthinkable. Standing still, waiting for the creature to wrap its massive coils around him, crushing the life from his body. And then, like a switch flipping in his mind, Kevin snapped out of his paralysis. He couldn't just stand there and wait for death. He had to act. His survival instincts took over, adrenaline flooding his veins as he turned on his heel and bolted into the jungle, crashing through the thick vegetation, not caring about the cuts from thorns or the branches that whipped his face. He just needed to get away. Behind him, he heard the unmistakable sound of the anaconda moving, faster this time, much faster. The ground beneath its massive body seemed to tremble as it gained on him, the soft rustling of its scales against leaves and dirt growing louder with each passing second. Kevin's breath hitched in his throat, the weight of terror pressing down on him like a physical force. He was running for his life now, and he knew it. He sprinted deeper into the jungle, dodging vines and leaping over fallen branches, his heart thudding wildly in his chest. But no matter how fast he ran, the snake was gaining on him, moving with terrifying speed and precision. Kevin could hear it closing in, its body cutting through the underbrush like a silent, deadly missile, ready to strike at any moment. His lungs burned and his legs screamed in protest, but he couldn't stop. He stumbled over a root, nearly falling, but managed to catch himself at the last second. He had no idea where he was going, no plan, just blind panic propelling him forward. And then, amid his flight, something strange happened. The relentless sound of the snake's pursuit suddenly stopped. Kevin risked a glance over his shoulder, expecting to see the anaconda right behind him, but it was gone. Just like that, the jungle was eerily silent once again. Kevin skidded to a halt, his chest heaving as he struggled to catch his breath. Confusion mixed with relief as he turned in slow circles, scanning the dense foliage for any sign of the snake. But there was nothing. The anaconda had vanished. It didn't make sense. Why had it stopped chasing him? What had scared off a predator of that size? Kevin's mind raced with questions, but before he could process them, a strange sensation washed over him, an unsettling feeling that prickled at the back of his neck, raising goosebumps along his arms. Something wasn't right. He wasn't alone. And then suddenly an anaconda appeared in front of him. Kevin decided to make a run for it further inside the rainforest. The anaconda followed him at a rapid pace. Kevin's heart was beating inside his chest. He didn't know if he was going to make it out alive. The anaconda was gaining on him, and he knew if this snake caught up to him, he didn't stand a chance. Then something strange happened. Out of nowhere, the anaconda stopped chasing Kevin. At the same time, Kevin got a strange feeling. It gave him goosebumps, like he didn't belong here. He had entered a part of the rainforest he wasn't supposed to go to. He could guess where he had ended up. This was native territory. They had never connected to the outside world, nor seen someone from Europe. Kevin knew he had to be careful. These people worshiped snakes, so Kevin was an enemy to them. He slowly wandered around to find his way back. He was weirded out that it was an altar of a snake. Walking around the altar, he saw something that scared him. It was the largest snake pit that he had ever seen. He felt uncomfortable, like he was being watched from the forest. He was on sacred grounds and had to be careful. Looking down the snake pit, he saw massive snakes protecting something down there. That much was clear. Kevin mustered up the courage to at least go down the snake pit to figure it out. The moment he tried going over the edge, he suddenly felt dizzy. He completely blacked out. It dawned on him that he was tranquilized. A blow dart had hit him right before he tried to descend into the snake pit. Now he was a captive of the native people. He was put in a cage right beside the snake pit. Kevin realized that they probably had plans to sacrifice the snakes. It looked like this ritual was going to take place that night. Kevin had to make sure he could escape and call for backup. He needed his backpack. He had a flare gun inside of his backpack that would definitely help him to get out of this precarious situation. The flare would alert his colleagues and a part of the military who was assisting them in clearing the pits. It was right beside his cage. He was so lucky that he could reach it. He quickly grabbed the flared gun out of the backpack and fired it. Backup quickly arrived. The military, accompanied by his colleagues, helped to get him out of the cage. They immediately closed down the area to clear the snake pit, something that the natives were worshiping. Kevin decided he was going to be the one to go down there. They sedated the snakes, and Kevin quickly ascended. Kevin gasped at what he encountered. Everyone around him gasped. Clearing out the snakes from the middle revealed something that no one had even expected. There was an enormous snake in the middle with a giant bulge. "No!" yelled one of the workers. They warned Kevin that the snake might act aggressively in this condition, as he is trying to defend himself if he feels threatened. So the workers came up with another solution. They decide that they will have to call somebody and try to get a hold of the nearest animal veterinarian. When the call of the vet ended, the worker who called in reacted in full shock. The vet said that the snake might be pregnant and is about to lay her eggs here in the middle of the snake pit. To make sure this is the case, the vet had a dangerous task for the workers. She tasked the workers with trying to figure out where the bulge was located on the body. To do this, the snake needed to be on land and laid out a bit while it was mostly curled up right now. Most of the workers hesitated, wondering if they should do this. What if the snake attacked them? A brave worker decided that he would position himself in the most dangerous place to make sure the others were safe. Then two other brave workers decided that they would pull the snake out of the water and stretch the snake. The head was quite far from the end of the tail, so the chances of it being able to bite them were slim, especially considering how slow the snake had been moving before. But they didn't want to take any risks, so they took extra safety measures. The two men geared up with some of the toughest material they could find, while another worker joined them to distract the snake if necessary. With lead in their shoes, the two men grabbed the tail of the snake. All the workers are holding their breath, hoping that everything goes according to plan. But there was nothing they had to be worried about, as the snake put up no fight. Now the workers can see where the bulge is located on the body and call the vet back to report their findings. The workers are curious about what to do next, as they have never seen a snake lay her eggs before. But the vet's tone changed immediately when she heard where the bulge was located. If the bulge were due to eggs, it would be located way farther back on the body. The bulge, located at about the start of the stomach, indicated something else, meaning it is probably unable to enter the snake's body. But what could there be inside the snake? The snake has swallowed something it shouldn't have, and probably required immediate surgery if it was to survive. But the workers didn't know what to do, so they asked the vet what they should do, or should they bring the snake to her. But for the vet to get to the worker's location was a challenge in itself, because she did not know the exact location of the snake and the workers. One of the workers proposed to pick her up, but there were still people in the company's warehouse who knew the worker's location exactly and how to get to the location. So the vet decided to visit the company's warehouse. After explaining the situation, a manager was willing to help her, and they used his all-terrain Jeep to traverse through the rainforest, which is never easy. The vet experienced one hell of a ride. The journey took about 3 hours in total, a journey on which the vet had considered many times if the life of this snake was worth wasting a whole day plus extra on it. Other animals in need might have also needed his help, but she had decided that she was going to have to stick with it. After 3 hours, she got to the snake, and when she was finally able to lay eyes on the snake, she knew instantly that it was worth all this effort. At the working site, the workers were also struggling with the time they had to wait for the doctor. The snake had no intention of staying at its current place. The workers did not know what to do next. Some workers wanted to just let it go, as that meant they could finally continue working. Why were they caring so much about a snake in the first place? Others had taken the doctor's words to heart and knew that if they let the snake go now, it would certainly die. Luckily for the snake and the doctor, this group was in the overwhelming majority. The snake was still moving very slowly, so the workers were able to block its path back into the depths of the jungle with plates of sheet metal they had brought with them as supplies. But this measure had a big con. They could not encapsulate the snake fully, so they had to keep moving to keep blocking the snake's path. The animal was getting irritated by this, and the workers had to be careful. The workers started to worry. The workers knew that they had to trust each other. It became a team effort, where even the people who wanted to let the snake go helped out. When the vet finally arrived at the site, the snake was still lying in the same place where the workers had kept it. But it became more and more obvious that this would not be the case for very long, as the snake had gotten aggressive at this point. The snake did not even want to remove the sheet metal that the workers had put there to hold the snake in place, but instantly targeted the workers that were holding the sheet metal. Many of the workers already had some close calls, but the fear of the snake increased to an all-time high. Some workers dropped the metal and ran back. The vet had to act quickly and knew that the only chance here was that she could quickly sedate the snake. There was always a risk that the snake might not wake up from this, considering the condition it was described to be in. But seeing it so actively trying to attack the workers, the vet had the confidence that it would survive the injection. The only thing left was approaching the snake with the tranquilizers. The vet waited for the snake to have its head turned in the other direction. After that, she slowly approached the snake and swiftly injected the sedative into the snake's lower body. Now they had to wait until the snake was fully sedated. Over the next couple of minutes, it slowed down more and more, and the vet was able to inject the snake with a couple more sedatives, which were necessary for a snake this size to go completely out. After a while, the snake was completely out. Some workers dropped to their knees from exhaustion, and their heart rates finally dropped back to normal a bit. They'd faced possible death numerous times by now, so they were relieved that they survived. Now the vet could finally turn her attention to the big bulge on the snake that she came for. She took her surgery kit out of the big Jeep from the company's warehouse and set it up to get to work. She could quickly confirm her suspicions that the object was stuck at the entrance to the snake's stomach by feeling its body. The object stuck in its body was something that the snake had swallowed and could not be broken down by the digestive system. But surgery always comes with a risk, especially if this surgery has to be done in the middle of the rainforest. But there was no other option available. With the greatest precision and care, the vet cut open the snake along with the bulge. After getting through the skin, muscle, and esophagus, the source of the bulge was finally revealed to everybody. Out of the snake came a small plastic box that baffled the vet at first, but the workers immediately knew what it was and realized what had happened. But the workers also realized that this was not good news for the snake. This box was their cooler in which they kept most of their perishables, like meat. However, the meat in this one had gone bad, so they left it out of the truck because it smelled really bad. But they still couldn't figure out how the snake found this cooler, as they thought they put it away safely. The snake must have picked up the scent and thought it was prey, so it swallowed it whole. With the cooler removed, the vet quickly started stitching up the snake again. It took about a few minutes for the snake to wake up. After the snake had gone back into the forest, the vet had one thing left that she needed to do. She thanked the workers for their incredible effort to keep the snake and themselves safe. After this, she went back to the city, where she had more patients waiting for her. To make sure the snake was okay, the vet did one last thing. She monitored the snake's behavior via the chip she planted. The snake was behaving completely normally, and the vet could confidently say that the operation had been a success. She saved the animal's life.